As you well know, I had framed the situation, I think accurately, and saying that there were two sides. One side wanted to keep families together and were opposed to children being separated from children. And the other side was sort of in favor of child trafficking, because that's what happens if you're not in favor of the other side. There were only two choices. And then the president signs an act that says, we're going to keep families together. And so people are rushing to me on Twitter to say, see, you said there were only two options. We told you he could just sign a paper. Is that what happened? Did he make the problem go away by signing a piece of paper? Do you think that's what happened? Have you seen the detail of what it's going to take to keep all the families together? No, you haven't. So here's what I think is happening. And again, I'm going to, I'll adjust my opinion as information pours in. So this is just the preliminary opinion. The president was trapped with two bad choices. Separating the children, and this is just the short run. In the long run, I think we all agree, if we had lots of time and resources, we could get to a good place that everybody likes. In the short run, it looked like he had two choices and they were both bad. Separate the kids or create a situation where immigration looks like such a good deal if you bring in a kid, whether it's yours or not, and that would be even a worse situation. But because, and this is the fun part, and by the way, let me back up. I don't want to use the word fun before I first acknowledged that taking children from their parents and putting them in cages, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That's bad news. If we can avoid it, we all want to. So we're all on the same page about how bad that is. But let's talk about what the options are. So the president caught between two bad choices. It's either a bad choice his base hated or a bad choice that would get him, the midterms would be a disaster. He'd get impeached. Terrible choices. And the problem was that there were only two bad choices, but his critics were imagining, here's the key word, imagining there was a third choice in which you could just sign something and the problem goes away. Now, the reality is just signing something to say we'll stop, let's say, enforcing it the way we were, just creates the other problem, which is more people are incented to come in. So there was no third choice. What do you do when there are two real choices, they're both bad, and the public is demanding a third imaginary choice? The imaginary choice is that you sign a piece of paper, problem solved. That's all you had to do. If you sign a piece of paper, all our problems go away. The old problem goes away, the new problem, sign that piece of paper. So what did President Trump do when he had two hard choices that were real and one imaginary choice that the public was demanding? He signed on to the imaginary choice. He actually embraced the imaginary, because in this case, the imaginary was real to people. So instead of trying to convince them that, no, you're living in an imaginary world, of course I could make the families stay together, but that just creates this other problem that we were trying to avoid. He couldn't convince anybody of that. So what does he do? The only thing you could do, and by the way, I did not see this coming. So I did not see this coming in any way whatsoever. So he's embracing the imaginary choice. Now what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next is that the news has to report what's wrong with his choice. In other words, they're going to have to argue against their own opinion from this morning. What are they going to do? They've been telling him all he has to do is sign a thing that says keep the families together and it's problem solved. So he embraced the imaginary and just signed it. Now, did signing that paper make a facility appear in which would be suitable for keeping families together? Did signing that paper create a new staff that are immediately in place to sort things out? Did signing that paper cause the judges that we would like to add to the situation to transport from wherever they are to here? Maybe, but I don't think so. So here's what happened. Because the president was very clearly focused on the long-term solution, which was terrible in the short run, had bad visuals, and it was bad for people. Right? It wasn't just the visuals, it was bad for people. Bad for the people involved, bad for the public, it was just bad. But it was the stronger long-term play. So instead of doing that, which he couldn't sell, he just signed a piece of paper, and now everybody's saying, what just happened? Because that's what we asked him to do. And then he did it. So everything's fixed now, right? Because he signed a piece of paper, which is what we asked him to do, because we were sure that would fix it. But judges can't transport from where they are to here, and facilities don't just become available. So what exactly does it mean? Here's what I think happened. It seems to me that the president was being blamed largely for his intentions. Right? You with me? The big complaint about the president was not, oh, we have two choices, they're both bad, and you picked the wrong bad one. Wasn't that. The real problem was his intentions. So what did he fix when he signed that document? Just his intentions. Because it didn't change a damn thing on the ground, did it? We still don't have enough facilities, we don't have enough people. Now in the long run, we would like to have all of that stuff. But in the short run, he fixed the part where they say you're not doing anything, because he did something. He fixed the part where they say you're not doing what we tell you is easy and you can do it, so he just did it. He's been saying it wouldn't make any difference. Now they will have to argue against their own policy to figure out why it didn't make any difference in the short run. In the long run, and the long run in this case could be, just a matter of weeks, it could be fairly soon, but it's still a longer run than today. The problem was today. So he managed to extricate himself from today's problem by joining the side of his critics. Not only did he join their side, he signs a document just like they said. And so, somebody's saying worst Hitler ever. So now they have to hold in their heads, wait a minute, he's supposed to be a monster, but when it was pointed out that his policy was hurting people, he agreed with us and within a matter of days signed an executive order that is what people wanted. Like Hitler. Wait a minute, that's not like Hitler. So there's this insanely interesting thing happening here. And again, when I say that something is entertaining or interesting, I'm not forgetting that the primary concern where our empathy should be is with the families that are in dire straits, the kids being separated from their moms. That's all real. I've been on that train from the beginning, that's an unacceptable situation in the long term. So the president has now created a long-term solution because there is no short-term solution. I mean, nothing's going to happen this afternoon, right? Those kids are pretty much going to be where they are this afternoon, I'm guessing. Unless there's some whole new thing we don't know about. That's the part that would revise my opinion. If it turns out there's a lot of detail on this that just hasn't been announced, then I will say, oh, okay, I'm wrong. There was a bunch of detail, and that fixes the problem. But I've been saying from the start that there's no easy solution. And then the president went and signed a document which tells all the people who believe there are easy solutions that they just got one. In the meantime, they can work on fixing the situation, which will take a little time, a little money, a little resources, might take a little congressional action and stuff. So they can start moving in the right direction. But the president fixed the hardest part, which is they believed his intentions were to use the children as, gambling or as pawns, etc. And this action sort of takes that argument away from them a little bit. So you're saying that families will be released into the wild? We don't know. We don't know what details are being considered for fixing it. Now, it's possible that the president didn't have a specific set of details, but maybe just ordering his people to go forward and fix it. That could be enough. It just won't happen this afternoon. They're going to use old Army base. Oh, is that the actual detail? Or is somebody just guessing that? Has somebody seen details yet? And by the way, just having a facility is still going to take a while to get this working. That doesn't mean that the buses just pulled up this afternoon and they're taking them to the facility. I would imagine that there's a lot to do. And by the way, the moment you get some new facilities and treat everybody well, does that create more people coming and then you need more facilities? We'll find out. What is the title of the EO? I didn't see it. Geraldo's, taking an empathetic view of this, and that's consistent. He's always had a lot of empathy for the people in trouble. Nothing wrong with that. Schools are vacant and can be used. Well, here's the thing. It's one thing to say we have facilities that can be used. It turns out it's very hard to actually do things in the real world. So even if you had, let's say, a school that was a block away and empty, actually getting the rights to use that school and getting the lights turned on and figuring out how to manage it and all that, we're still talking about probably months. But if it turns out that there's a fast way to do this, that would be great, but don't you think we would have been told what it is? If there were a fast way to do it, to keep the families together from the current situation, you'd hear some details, wouldn't you? So I think that Trump did all that he could do in this situation. It might be, ridiculously effective given the bad alternatives, because it puts him squarely on the side of his critics. He just took their side and said, yeah, can't do this. I'm going to sign something to make sure it doesn't happen. Now, if it takes a while to get it done, at least he's fixed his intentions, and by then he'll be able to point to things that are happening in the near term that will get us there.